Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of What the FinTech, podcast from the team behind FinTech Futures and the Banking Technology magazine. My name is Paul Hindle, editor at FinTech Futures, and for this episode we're joined by Marie-Gwenhaelle Geffroy, head of growth capital at BNP Paribas. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Very nice to be here with you today.
Excellent. It's great to have you here. And just to get started, would you like to quickly let us know a bit more about yourself and your role then at BNP Paribas?
Sure. So I've been working with BNP Paribas for quite some time. And over the last 2 decades, we have invested a lot in supporting the innovation ecosystem across Europe and more broadly. And over the past years, we've geared up on the corporate and institutional banking side to provide the second step of support that those innovation needs. So when they scale up, founders and investors in that ecosystem need long-term partners. So we've put a team together at the end of last year, growth capital and solutions team within our CIB just to do that, to put all the right expertise across equity advisory, day-to-day relationship and partnering, financing, to really be a catalyst of what BNP can offer as a platform to work with founders and their investors across EMEA.
Excellent. Sounds great. And again, it's great to have you here. And thanks so much for taking the time out to speak with us today. So on the show this week, we'll explore the key startup and funding trends in the European fintech space this year and learn more about BNP Paribas' fintech investment strategy and how the company works with new startups to help them scale up and grow. We'll dive into how Europe's fintech landscape has evolved in recent years and some of the defining focus areas across the region, which emerging technologies and use cases are picking up the most traction and showing the most potential moving forward, and Marie's top tips for fintech founders looking to grow their businesses. So to start off then, Marie, the head of growth capital and solutions role is a new one at BNP Paribas. Can you explain a bit more about what that encompasses and why the bank felt the time was right to create this role in particular?
So what we're trying to create here is contribute as a leading European bank to building that compounding ecosystem across innovators, capital, and solutions. It's the role of a bank like BNP Paribas to really be at the core of supporting that innovation. We know that Europe has an amazing card to play on the global scene, and we know also that we need to accelerate the pace, notably on the scale-up and the later stage of financing of those innovators. So across fintech, but also across next-gen tech and climate tech, we have built a team with expertise to advise those companies, to support them on the day-to-day, and to also unlock all the solutions that the bank can provide to larger clients when it's appropriate for them and when it's the right time. So it's very exciting. We are a very transversal team with a diversity of profiles from ex-founders. We have a number of ex-founders who joined the team to really support their former peers in navigating the journey of a founder and of a startup and scale-up, and also financing and structuring experts that help those founders and investors to find the right capital, the right structure at the right time for them.
Sounds great. And I mean, looking at Europe's fintech scene, then how would you say the landscape has evolved in recent years, given some of the economic shocks we've had and with funding generally slowing down globally over the last few years?
First of all, I think that despite the shocks that you're mentioning, European fintech remains a hotbed of innovation for Europe, and fintech remains a bright spot for European tech scene. We are ahead of the US in terms of innovation, in terms of a number of ideas and brand power, I think, in the fintech space. It is one of the leading sectors for Europe, and we have an amazing card to play. When you look at the evolution of this ecosystem, despite those shocks, it's quite amazing to see the growth that we've been benefiting of. Roughly 52 billion euro have been invested over the last 5 years by private capital in European and UK fintech. So that's roughly 10 billion a year. And it's a massive step change compared to the last decade. Based on historic data, and all you know that very well, it's roughly 5 times more capital than the yearly average that we had between 2010 and 2019. And I put aside 2021 and 2022, which were unusual years, as we know. So we are seeing every quarter in Europe at the moment the equivalent of yearly investments a decade ago. So that's a very positive sign. What is important to note, though, is that this growth is quite concentrated across 3 key countries. So you have the UK, of course, Germany and France that are really leading the trend. 70 to 75% of all investment in fintech at the moment are flowing toward those 3 countries. So quite some concentration here. This year is a good year, even if we are still having some pain points, notably the IPO market that is not reopening quite yet. Let's see what happened with Klarna. It's quite timely to see how it can unlock the latest months of the year because there is a number of great deals that could follow. But if you look at year to date, we still have roughly 12, 13 European fintech VC deals over $100 million that have been completed versus less than 20 in the last 2 years. So despite all the turmoil and all the as empty glass that we can often see, it's still a good year and we can expect more, notably if some of the IPO backlog is dealt with.
Excellent. And we're heading into the latter stages of the year now. What would you say have been the defining fintech trends of Europe over the years so far that you've observed across the sector?
So a lot is happening in the space, so it's not easy to pick. I think we talk a bit about the funding, and it's not the most obvious change. It's an important one, but what is much more critical in my view is the product. We've seen a widespread evolution of adoption of AI across the sector, for the good or for the branding, it depends. But when it was really embedded in products, and it could have an amazing impact for the scale up, for the quality of the product of fintech, and for the monetization of it. So I would say quite basic, but widespread AI adoption is one. Another one is, of course, the maturation of neobanking and neo-lending sector. Before COVID, we had a number of neobanks who were heavily loss-making, could not really commercialize their customer base, and didn't have a banking license. Now we're seeing the generation of 2010s neobanks maturing and reversing some of the fundamental questions we have had over the last decade. And they are advancing the financial sector services at a pace that we've never seen. The third one that I will mention is regulation. And regulation is key and critical, and it's a license to operate for fintech. And a lot has been happening in the space. Maybe we can touch upon that in more detail later on, but it's definitely one of the third critical trend that we've seen.
Excellent. And I mean, you touched on the funding there, but where would you say are seeing the biggest levels of funding at the moment?
So it's quite interesting because what we've seen is that funding is still flowing, but it has been much more selective. And we see more capital flowing toward less companies. So this flight to quality and selectivity has been quite obvious since 2021, 2022. But we're also seeing some interesting development. And you have basically 80-90% of the funding who is going to go and ask and has been asking over the past year for operational efficiency and profitability over growth in Europe after the slowdown that we've seen post-2021. And on the other side, you have amazing amounts of capital flowing into AI-driven and solid AI-supported business models that are only focusing on growth. So that's quite interesting to see that more capital, less companies can benefit of it, and you need to have a very solid product. AI is a key element of it, but not enough, of course. And you have a kind of two buckets that are very different and where investors are asking very different key KPIs to deploy their capital. But growth is still coming back very, very strongly in all investors' objective and discussion after the slowdown that we've seen.
And are there any areas that you feel are particularly overlooked that maybe deserve more attention than in the fintech space?
It's a very good question. I think that one area we're seeing that may be overlooked by some is the conversions of software and fintech. The line between the two are becoming more and more blurred, and we have software companies monetizing their products with payments and other financial products. And we have also fintech charging recurring revenue fees to access their platform, and then additional transaction fees on top of this. So we can see that the two worlds are really blurring. What does it mean, in my view, for fintech? I think it means that product matters more and more, and that once you have the right product, you own the customer and you can monetize them how you see fit, be that adding in transaction fees or recurring subscription. The sky is the limit. A great example of this is the restaurant Post in the US Toast. From the start, there had been a software company focused on software, working on delivering high-end restaurant operating system to manage their end-to-end business. If you look at them now, and if you look at their P&L notably, they look like a fintech company. Last year, they made $5 billion in revenue, and $4 billion of that was from financial technology. So I think it's a good example of that, those lines blurring between the two worlds.
And I mean, what can you tell us about BNP Paribas FinTech's investment strategy then? Are there any areas or technologies that you're particularly focused on at the moment?
We're a bank, so tech is core to our strategy. The 2025 BNP strategic plan was called GTS, so Growth, Tech, and Sustainability. And for a financial bank like us, you have to work, partner, and be very close to the fintech ecosystem in order to enable the right adaptation and modernization of services and infrastructure. So we've been working quite a lot on it. Fintech are also competitors potentially, and they're disrupting the established process of our sector. But it's only by working together with them that we can achieve the pace and the impact that we need to modernize this financial sector. So for us, it's a great opportunity. We've been forging alliances that hold the potential to really reshape our business model and the way we serve clients across the retail bank, across the CIB, across the asset management part of our businesses. And what I think is quite interesting is that when you combine the core capabilities of the bank with modern infrastructures, it really can be a big game changer. There is 4 areas where we've been working specifically on accelerating over the past year. I would say the first one is market infrastructure. The advance of blockchain and digital assets have been bringing a wave of opportunity for the financial industry and for us. So we're increasingly exploring the area. We can, with those technology, enhance our processes across pre and post trade. We have been able in our global market division to find new ways to streamline workflows, reduce settlement times, and minimize transaction costs. So we're working very much on it, and we're partnering. For example, in 2023, we invest in Finality International. It's a banking consortium creating a series of blockchain-based payments to enable real-time wholesale payment in central bank digital currency. The second one is generative AI. AI is a tool across all sectors, and notably in banking, in fintech, as we were mentioning. It's going to revolutionize the way we work, the way we serve our clients, and the way we manage also our risk. So on that front, we've been working and partnering with different fintechs, but also AI companies. So we have, for example, recently invested in Mistral, the French AI company, and we have a partnership with them where we work very closely trying to enhance our own processes, leveraging on Mistral model. The third one, I would say, is how fintech and our partnership with them can help us unlock capital markets. So as it becomes more standardized and cost effective, more clients can benefit of it. Smaller businesses, however, often encountering very strong barriers to transact with large banks, such as high cost and complex engagement model. So we've been also working on that with fintech specializing in capital market product distribution through advanced digital platform. We are really seeking to support better smaller business with innovative risk management and solutions to facilitate opportunities. We've partnered, for example, on that stream with Cantox. It's a fintech that has developed a solution to automate risk management and allow corporate treasurers to embed the FX risk management into their own tailored workflows. And it's a very strong partnership. And the last one, but one which is also close to my heart, is accelerating the development of sustainable finance solutions. We have super focused on the transition to low carbon and sustainable finance at BNP, as you may know. And we've been working with a lot of ESG data providers that enable banks to stay relevant to their corporate and institutional clients when it comes to integrating ESG. We've been in 2019, we even invested in Everland LLC. I don't know if you know it, but it's a specialized company representing a high-impact forest conservation project active in the voluntary carbon market space. And it's super interesting and quite exciting to be able to provide that and to embed that the bank and in our discussion with clients.
Sounds great. And I guess with the companies that you invest in, then how does BNP Paribas work with fintech startups to help them scale up and grow?
So BNP is a very big bank, and we have an integrated model that allows us to really usually integrate what is important to us in every single business line. So I will start with mine, if you don't mind. So within CIB, the idea is to really be able to deliver the industrial platform that we have across banking, capital market, global market to our clients. So it starts with my team. It doesn't stop there, but it will start with my team where we have people on the ground across EMEA, so dedicated bankers that are dedicated to tech and fintech in all the key countries. Some of them, as I was mentioning before, are ex-founders, so they really speak the same language than our innovators. We're working with them on building their equity story with our equity advisory banker, accessing the right capital at the right time, because it's not only about finding capital and money, it's about finding the right partners on the long term for those companies that will allow them to enter the right market and scale and have the support to do so. So our role is really to bridge the corporate clients and the founders that we're working with, the institutional money and the institutional sector as a whole, and help both sides make a batch and find a great fit. At the level of the bank, of course, it's only one team, but we're a bit the catalyst and we embark understanding what those fintechs are doing deeply. We can then embark the rest of the bank. And it doesn't stop with us, of course. So I was saying our GTS plan enabled us to really think about tech and innovation as a core strategic focus everywhere we go. And we have also various investment arms within the group, from our global market leading platform that invested in Cantox, in Mistral, as I was mentioning, to our asset management and our retail bank. We have dedicated pockets of investment to really be with them, have skin in the game, and help them scale. We also partner with them because we are a user of fintech, as we discussed already, and we partner with some of the fintech on adapting our client journey, fraud detection processes. And in order to do that, we have developed a couple of large incubators in Europe to really help them at the very start of their journey, getting the right support and the right surrounding to have the best chances to scale their ideas. And on that side, our retail bank has been doing a huge work and is quite differentiating. Definitely in France, the best partner for tech and fintech. And in Europe, has a very strong presence on the ground in our key countries, in the UK, in Germany, and elsewhere. I think that it's all about thinking that we are the very strong, big elephants that can move sometimes a bit more slowly, and think about the startup as the agile animal that will go fast, that will go very smooth, and that still needs some framing and help to do it right. So we're trying really to combine our strengths with those companies. And with my team, I have to say it's an amazing journey because we are only not a small team within CIB. We work with the rest of the bank, and anytime one of our clients needs something, we're able to open the very large toolbox that BNP has and connect them, find solutions. So it's also quite an entrepreneurial journey for us and quite an effective one.
Sounds great. And I guess the US continues to lead the way globally when it comes to fintech investment. And you mentioned obviously Klarna at the start of the show as well. A lot of companies are choosing to go public there. I mean, what would you say are the key differences when it comes to scaling up a company in Europe than somewhere like the US?
Right, the elephant in the room, I think that when you're in the US, you have one single market with 330 million potential customer that you can target in one go. When you're in Europe, you have 27 different regulations and market and consumer expectations. So I think that's one of the big difference that we see between, and that has been putting quite some weight on European funders. It comes with also some positive, because when you know and when you have that in mind, you know that you need to prepare your business model and your forecast in order to scale quickly in other countries in Europe. And you focus maybe a little bit more on managing and balancing your growth with your business model, your company culture, and everything. But still, until we don't manage to have one single market in Europe, one single capital market in Europe, we can see that it's a big difficulty to compete with the US. Once you've said that, and coming back to what we were discussing at the moment, US continued to lead because it's able to mega scale some of those fintech. However, Europe leads in terms of idea generation, talents, and execution of new ideas. So I think let's see what's come next. For me, it's kind of a pivoting time, and one we can still have a good cap to play to put Europe at the forefront of the fintech scene.
Excellent. And you mentioned regulation earlier in the show as well. Obviously, you just touched on it there. I mean, how do you see the regulatory landscape around financial services in Europe evolving, and what needs to be done, do you think, to help promote fintech growth?
So I think with AML, CFT, with Basel 3.1, with MiCA, FIDA rolling out, the message is quite clear. Regulation is no longer a checkbox. It's a strategic lever that fintech needs to embed. So it's a very key shift as those regulations are rolling out. You see that compliance is at the heart of any product or solution. Regulatory changes are bringing capital and risk requirements from big financial institutions to the fintech ecosystem, so to everyone. And crypto and open finance are moving towards infrastructure that are more to be compared with institutional grade. So it's a very important focus that fintech funders need to have. I would say that it's also quite important that on the regulation side, we're careful. It's important to protect customers. It's important to protect and to provide the right security and framework. But we need always the right balance between the stick and the carrot. Because if we kill with too much regulation at the very beginning, some of those new ideas and platforms, it won't enable them to deploy. I think the public officials in Europe have very much understood that over the past years and maybe months. So I'm expecting a lot of dialogue because that's key, and a lot of pragmatism across the public and the fintech debate.
Excellent. So what tips or advice would you give to budding fintech founders looking to get started in the current economy then?
I think it's a great time. If you have a great idea, it's now that you need to start because we are at a tipping point. Across globally, we have an amazing innovation ecosystem. The next 5 years are going to be transforming, and we're going to see changes that we've not seen maybe in our lifetime. It's really that tipping point. It's also a tipping point in Europe. I think all the shocks and the geopolitical difficulties that we've seen over the past year are also bringing opportunities for people to wake up and to see that everyone needs to build their tech and the tech sovereignty. So for a founder in EMEA, it's an amazing time to start. I would say that there is 3 basic things that I would focus on if I were them, is focusing on building a great product. Product is everything. The rest is noise. You need to focus on a great market and client fit and building the right culture in your team as it grows, because that's very much what will differentiate you from any others. The best pitch will never equal those 3 key qualities. That's where capital will focus on investing. They invest in people, in a team with the right culture, and that is enabled also to keep that culture as it grows, which is usually the most difficult. The quality of the product, be really client obsessed. What is the problem you're solving and how great is your product, and your potential to scale. And again, to scale across countries and beyond Europe. The rest is the journey, I will say.
Excellent. And I mean, you must speak to a lot of fintech founders and leaders in your role. You've mentioned you've got some founders in your team as well. What is it you would say that makes a great fintech founder? What characteristics do they need to show?
I will say that you need to be resilient because it's quite a journey to be a founder. It's a long game, and it's not just building an app as it could have been a decade or so ago, but you need in the fintech world to navigate regulators, raising capital cycle. You need to access the right end clients, and accessing the large incumbents is quite a challenge in the fintech sector, while building your team and focusing on building the right culture that you had in mind at the beginning and not losing track of it. Vision and execution skills. Usually when you're in front of a potential partner, client, investor, you have 2 minutes to convince, and you can see it through when you meet a great founder. They're able to articulate in 2 minutes what kind of problems they're solving, whether it is consumer, SME, institution, and they're really obsessed by their product, and it's super easy to understand. In fintech, complexity is everywhere, so you can super easily fall into that complexity landscape, and it can deviate you from your goal, from your growth, and from convincing people. So by focusing on client problem and how you solve it, I think is critical, and explaining it very simply and very well. And you need to be credible because we are in an industry where trust is the currency. So you need really to put a lot of emphasis on that. And you need to build the right relationship and dialogue with your full ecosystem. So not only investors, but regulators, clients, and your own team. You don't have to have the best resume or the best team on the paper. You need to show how you manage innovation growth in a responsible manner for the financial industry and notably for banks as clients like us, it's very critical. So be resilient through the roller coaster, lead with clarity across complexity, and make sure that you build trust.
Sounds great. And just to finish off here then, I mean, what's next for BNP Paribas? And do you have anything else in the pipeline that you can tell us about now?
I would love to share that, Paul, but a lot of it is confidential, so expect to hear more of us and be there to support the fintech landscape in Europe, from our top senior management to my team and many other teams on the ground. We are all speed to support this transformation of the financial service sector and to work with fintech. So yes, expect to hear more from us and don't hesitate to reach out if you need that support.
Thanks again, Marie, for chatting with us today. To close out the podcast, we have our now infamous FinTech Jail. So this is where we ask for an industry term, buzzword, or trend that you've seen or heard enough of, or of course, you can advocate to free one of the previously incarcerated terms. So what would your selection be for this week?
So I've seen your list, and it's quite an extensive list of words in jail at the moment. I was quite impressed. I will say that stablecoin is too young to be in jail. You can't put a teenager in jail just yet. We need to give it a chance and watch. There is a lot of debate, even within my team, for example. There is a lot of debate about whether stablecoin will be as promising and as critical solutions for the sector as it could be. But I really think we should watch, because I don't think there will be one single solution that will win, and stablecoin could be part of the solutions that will be put in place. It's basically a Bitcoin backed by US Treasury deposit or else. At the moment, it's mostly in the US, but we're seeing a number of initiatives in Europe, and it's so transformative for finance and the future of payment. The smart contract and the chain of action that it enables in such a smooth way is an amazing solution. If you can imagine businesses, households moving value across borders in seconds at almost no cost and 24/7, if you can embed smart contracts across the value chain and the supply chain, it allows a number of efficiency. And of course, you need the right regulation to structure it and control it, but you need also to allow it space to develop. I think there are different solutions that can learn to speak together and to speak to each other, and stablecoin could be part of it. So again, I might be wrong, but I will put it out of jail for now, so we see how it goes.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And I guess, I mean, is there anything you can tell us about BNP Paribas' kind of stablecoin strategy at the moment?
So we are looking into it. We have a number of experts working on it, and we're starting to work with some of the players in the space to see how we could partner. But again, we are still in a discovery phase. And as much as BNP is focusing towards innovation, we will always prioritize a safe and secure environment for our clients. So we're working on it, early stage, teenage engagement, but taking it quite seriously.
Sounds great. And yeah, like you said, I'm more than happy to let stablecoins out of the jail. I think this week, as you mentioned, it's still early days for the technology and a lot of innovation left there, I think. I think with stablecoins, similar to AI, it's become so popular this year that it's become a prime candidate for the jail just because people are hearing it so often. But like you said, there's still so much left to be done there, I think. And it's very much a watch this space technology. So we will free stable coins from the jail this week. And for now, Marie, thank you so much again for joining us for the podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure too.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks, of course, to Marie for joining me. As for FinTech Futures, you can find us online at fintechfutures.com, and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn to keep up with the latest FinTech news. If you like this podcast and our other episodes, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcasting service to get notified about future episodes. Thanks as well to Arama for editing this podcast. You can check them out at arama.tv. And as always, thank you very much for your support, and we'll see you soon for another episode of What the FinTech. But until then, goodbye.